Okay, thank you. Right, so welcome everyone. We are Alvin and Elizabeth from The Right Move, right? Today will be our very first Facebook Live session. And so today, the session will be more about sharing with first timers, right? What are some of the critical points that they need to consider before embarking on their purchase. All right. All right, so without further ado, let's get started. Okay, right. Okay, let's have a show of hands, right? So we have two types of first-time buyers usually, right? Those that buy for their own stay and those that are looking to purchase for investment, right? So let's have a look of have a show of hands.
Maybe you can drop in the comments whether you're looking for own stay or whether you're looking for investment, so that we know today the focus, how we should be directing the focus also. I think for own stay, most of the times the buyers that we get, they are young couples looking to start their family, and looking to start their first home. So versus those that are looking for investment, while there are the couples who are also very investment focused, there are also some single buyers who feel that they have some funds and they would like to use their funds somewhere, and they are considering property as a form of investment. So can we have some feedback whether you guys are looking more towards own stay or for investment?
So Jackson is looking for investment, first 3 years rent out, then after that stay. Actually, that is a very common request that we get, right? People that want own stay but also want capital appreciation. Of course, there's also people that are on the extreme ends of the spectrum, lah. Only want to stay, don't really care if make money or never make money.
Yeah, I think David, Edison, Dominic, you guys are looking more towards own stay. So then we have people like Charles who are looking for own stay and yet hope that at the end of the day there will be some capital appreciation.
So we have a pretty good mix, right? So regardless of what you're looking for, right? We feel that the points that we have gathered will help you at least rule out some options, right? There is no real right or wrong answer. At the end of the day, it's what you're looking for, right? But what we feel would help first timers a lot is to help you visualize where would you be, right? 5 years down the road, 10 years down the road after taking this option, which is something that a lot of people miss out on.
Or even not just 5-10 years later, but for your whole property journey, where do you want to be at the end and how can you get there, so that you make sure that in any case you have choices available to you.
All right. Okay. So we have a good mixture, right? So let's get started. Okay. So what are the common challenges that first timers face? Okay. So not just first timers lah, most homeowners, right? They want location, right? And they need the house, right, by a certain period of time. They also want size, but have a fixed budget, right? And then especially nowadays, a lot of people are very concerned about the tenure, the age of the flat, right? Because of the depreciating lease and lease decay and whatnot, right? And then I think a few of you are also looking for capital appreciation. Okay, so it's not easy to I would say, right, it's not easy to even tick 4 out of these 6 boxes, right? Of course, everybody will hope to be able to tick all 6, but it's impossible to have all 6 at one go, right? So the whole idea about today's sharing is to help you eliminate, right, or help you at least prioritize these needs and requirements and see which one is more important for you, and that would help you eliminate those options.
And I think sometimes the trouble, especially if you're looking for own stay with a partner, is that both parties have differing views. One person wants location and size. The other person wants to manage the budget a little bit better, or is more, more logical, wants capital appreciation to make sure that next time when we sell the property, there is money that comes out of it. And I think the struggle that everyone faces is that these factors and these challenges are, how do I put it? They are, in a sense, mutually exclusive. If you want somewhere that has a good location, inevitably your budget will need to be managed or need to be expanded. Those that are in a good location also tend to be a little bit older because they are in the mature estate. So I think these are the common challenges that first timers who we meet come to us with.
Yeah, so a very, very common thing that we see right nowadays is that young couples, right, they first get together, some of them even still in university. So then they start to BTO, right? They BTO, right? BTO 4, 5 times, 6 times. The most that we heard, some 10 times, cannot get, right? By the time from boyfriend, girlfriend until get married already,
still trying,
still trying, but fail, right? So then in the end, how? Then, but bopian already, because now going to get married, need to have a house. So this is another thing that we talk about, right? The whole idea that after you get married, need to get house, settle down, is something that is I would say is a pretty passed down from the generations kind of mindset, right? And it is really something that we drive across as a question to our clients a lot. Do you really need the house now, right? And as we move on in the sharing later on, you will see this thing about time come up quite a bit, right? Also location, right? As what Elizabeth has mentioned before. Okay, so how many of you, maybe we have a show of how many of you here try BTO at least 5 times, 4, 5 times, fail one, right? Then again, why 4, 5 times? Usually those that try a lot of times also always try to have the good location one, right? So
like the Bidadari cannot get,
then Bio Bishan, that kind of thing.
Yeah, and actually, which is then very surprising because the government is releasing a lot of BTO. So every time when people tell us that, oh, we try a lot of times and we cannot get, then the very natural reason behind it is because you're trying for the centrally located HDBs and BTOs, and because it's so overly subscribed, that's why the chances are low. Yeah, and I think another problem with first timers is there are many options for you guys nowadays. You have your BTO, you have your sale of balance, you have your ECs, you have your resale HDBs, and you have your private property. So with all those options and with all these considerations in place, then you're like not sure which one should I go for. Should I go for BTO or should I go for EC, or maybe just take the grant and go for a resale flat, and I can have it quick, that kind of thing. So those are the normal questions that we get from our first timers.
Yeah. So other than this, right, do share with us what other challenges you face as a first timers, right? And then we will address those challenges also at the end of the session, nearer to the Q&A, at the Q&A session. All right. Okay. So next, right, we talk about what are the common mistakes made by first timers, right? So right, so just now we mentioned a lot on these first timers that fail many times in their BTO, right, trying to get the centrally located.
Yeah, I think Sean said he tried 7 times and cannot get.
Yeah, so 7 times is quite normal, right? A lot of people from got time suddenly become no time. So what is emotions versus logic? Okay, so actually we got to ask ourselves, right? Location, this thing, right? Is it more emotions or is it more logic? Okay, because Singapore actually is not a very big country. Okay, centrally located and a not centrally located, yes, right? We are not trying to kid ourselves by there definitely is a difference in the travel time, right? 30 minutes, an hour a day, right? 2 hours a day. But how do you reconcile location versus capital appreciation versus tenure versus lease decay, that kind of thing? That is something that a lot of people are struggling with, cannot reconcile, right? That's why cannot make a decision and cannot move forward, right? So later on, we'll share with you our evaluation chart and how you can slowly get to that decision. Okay, so emotions versus logic, right? So usually the one that very insistent on the location, what really is more the emotional one.
Or size.
Right? Another one is also size, right? Grow up in a 1,500 square feet HDB EM, right? 1,400, 1,500 square feet, right? Already fixed in the mind that need to continue to live in that kind of house. But sometimes they forget that that time when they were staying in the 1,500 square feet house was with a family of 5, right? But now you're moving in with your partner and you're only going to be 2 of you. So is there really a need for such a big house? So something to ask yourself about. Okay. Then of course, then there's the logical part, right?
Yeah. So the logical part, then you have your capital appreciation. You try to keep within the budget, but yet sometimes we have clients who are too conservative, too logical, too conservative in terms of planning this, whereby you actually have a couple who have very stable jobs, good income, but yet they are very conservative. They want to keep the budget low. They are afraid to take that step, because they are afraid of the monthly repayment, which in a sense don't balance out based on their profile. They can actually afford something better and have more options to them. So sometimes it's this emotion and logic that is hard to balance.
Yeah, right. So our job here as agents really, and also as because we have a lot of friends and family that are around our same age, right? Also looking for first properties. So where do we learn all of this? Where do we pick up all of these pointers? Really is speaking to people, many different clients, basically second timers, right? Those that have gone through this whole process of buying your first property, from the second property now looking to either upgrade or swapping out their property.
Correct. And it's actually through meeting all these clients, especially those that are more middle age, where we learn about the second point of being too idealistic when buying your first property. So some of them, right, first timers who we met, and also those that are who came to us after buying their first property, we always ask them, why do you suddenly need to change? It's like, oh, last time when I bought, I thought this house would be a house that I can stay in for the rest of my life. I don't need to change already. I got it settled. I'm not fussy. I can live in this. But we often do not, how do I put it, do not consider a lot of factors, or there are a lot of factors that may not be in our consideration now. For example, the need to look after parents, or when kids come along, you need more space, or you realize parents, right? Singaporeans parents especially, they will do a lot of things for the kids. They will move the house and uproot the whole family and go to somewhere with a good school just for the kid. So it's all these kind of factors that are unexpected, and then the house that you thought you could stay in for a really long time end up is not suitable and you have to sell. And when that happens, and if you didn't do the proper planning at the start, that's where you find yourself being stuck, and then you are in a not a very good position to be in.
Yeah, so I thought I can share this case study, right, with all of you. So I have a client, right? They came to look for me about 6 months. They came to look for us about 6 months ago, right? So they are in a HDB flat in Bishan, right? The HDB flat is about already 35 years old. Okay, 4-room HDB. When I went to the house to meet them, the house was beautiful, right? Beautifully renovated. Then I asked them, hey, why you renovate until so nice? Why are you selling now? Right?
Oh, and we asked them how much you spend on the renovation. They spent I think more than 100K on renovation.
Yeah, more than 100K. So why do they need to sell now, right? So they initially say, when we first bought this house, we know this whole thing about HDB depreciating lease, we know, right? But at that point in time, our main focus was buying a house in a good location, right? And a nice size, right? For us, we want to have a big open kitchen, a combined dining and a kitchen area, things like that, a study room, right? So they zoomed in on this. It was the perfect house for them at that point in time, right? But fast forward, right? Haven't even hit the 5-year MOP. Fast forward 3 years, right? They already are looking to sell. Why? Right? Number one, right? They check the valuation, right? The valuation dropped, right? A good 20,000 every year. So I've checked the valuation now. It has gone down from about 550,000 to 480, 460,000 thereabouts already. So as much as people like to tell themselves that I buy my house for own stay and I'm happy to enjoy it, right? It is very painful when you are actually in the situation and seeing it happen, right? It is because at the rate that it's going, you can't see, right? 3 years, he's asking me, hey, like that, wow, 3-4 years already down like that. Next, another 5 more years, how, right? So that's number one.
And I think the second point for them is that they suddenly realized their parents, the wife's parents were getting a little bit old and needed more help from them as kids. So while their property, their house, they bought a good size, old 4-room, so it's large. They can house their parents. But the tricky thing is their parents don't want to come and move over with them. They want to stay in their estate where they are comfortable. Sometimes old people can be a little bit more stubborn and not so flexible in terms of location preferences. So now their concern is that perhaps in another 5 years time where my parents grow older and I need to take care of them, I have to shift closer to them, because them coming to shift in with me doesn't seem to be like an option.
Yeah. So all in all, right, what are we trying to say? Okay. Try not to fixate yourself with the whole idea that this house, you will stay forever one, because really nothing is forever, right? So we focus a lot on helping clients plan to have flexibility in their property planning, right? So that, right, if you really nothing happen, you want to stay forever, good, right? Fine, happy. But if anything happens, you are not stuck and left with no options, right? What do we mean by stuck and what do we mean by no option, right? Here's an example, an actual example on what it looks like, right? Finance-wise, numbers-wise.
So this was what we prepared for a client who was a first timer. She was considering to buy a centrally located HDB. So centrally located HDB not cheap. The budget she was looking at was about 800,000 for I think she was considering Bishan or Toa Payoh. So let's say you take your 10% CPF down payment 80K plus the stamp duty, the total funds needed, which is about 100K, and you get the first timer grant 40K. So at this point of time, the total amount of money that you use from your CPF, including the grant, is about 140K, and your outstanding loan is 680K. So monthly repayment, two of them, good jobs, very comfortable, is about $3,000, of which the amount of money they receive from their CPF each month is about 2,700. So they will be using that, to pay off the loan. So those are what we get from them. So we were trying to forecast and let them understand this example, that if you were to buy a resale HDB, what do we mean by getting stuck? Is that if you use your CPF to pay the monthly mortgage and the initial amount of CPF use of 140,000 use keeps compounding the interest, the accrued interest of CPF, 5 years later, what will happen? You will notice that your CPF refund multiply significantly from 140,000 to 333,000. And after you reduce your outstanding loan, your net proceeds, you see, we have highlighted there in red, negative 110,000. So it means that when you sell your house 5 years later, you have no cash proceeds. So some people will say, never mind, this negative $110,000 that I lose is my CPF, it's okay. But I think the thing to consider and the thing that we notice with a lot of upgraders is that when they come to the point where they want to upgrade, they realize that a lot of the cash savings that they have, right, all are in the house. And if your house is in a negative sale, that means you don't have cash proceeds. So when you want to upgrade and you need the down payment for the next house, which if you buy a private property is 5% cash and 20% cash or CPF, then this cash has to come from somewhere. And if it doesn't come from your house, it has to come from your savings. And I'm not sure about you guys, but you know, we realize a lot of couples have problems saving money on a monthly basis. There are a lot of expenses, monthly expenses, daily expenses, and a lot of people use insurance as a form of saving, which is not very liquid. So when it comes to the property and when you want to upgrade, and if you don't have cash coming out of the property, this upgrade is then a lot more difficult.
Yeah. So another thing to think about, right, about this negative sale thing, right? Because we grow up from in a generation whereby our parents tell us, right, or we have that impression that your house is your biggest asset, right, and your house is where all the bulk of your equity sits in, right? So when people face problems, right, liquidity problems, lose their jobs, things, their first thought process is that never mind, what's come to worst, I sell my house. I will have some money come out and then I can do something about it, right? I can take that money and go and survive, right? In our parents' generation, right? In the previous generation, where their HDB go from 50,000 to 500,000, right? The accrued interest will very hardly result in negative sale for them. But times have changed, right? The HDB prices, right, in the best of times will roughly remain the same, right? And your CPF accrued interest having caught up with it. So it's not so much about, right, your CPF, right? I know most of you must be thinking, my CPF go back in, I also can take back out and use. True, right? But it's this thing about when you sell a house, you got no cash to come out. So think about it, right? Which is why one of the critical questions that we ask in our checklist later on that we'll share with you, if you stay with us till the end, is cash proceeds important for you? All right. Okay. So I think is that about it? Yeah. Let's talk about the next point, right? So if you're not sure about this, right, drop us a text, right? Because sometimes it's a bit hard to understand at the very first instant, right? Drop us a text, drop us a PM. We'll be happy to run it through with you again. All right. Okay. So
yeah, so this is something that we have taken out from our first timer guide, and we think it is very useful to wrap up this whole session today. It is where you come to the evaluation stage. How do I decide which property will suit me best now and you know, for the whole forward planning that we were talking about just now? So the first thing, of course, to identify is this property for own stay or for investment? While everyone likes to achieve both, if possible, to be honest, it is often not the case. It's not easy to achieve both own stay and investment at the same time. So I think we've got to at least weigh is which one is more important. Is own stay more important? The comfort of finding a place, your dream home, is that more important? Or is having capital appreciation more important for you? Okay, then the next one is timeline. Whether, you know, can you wait for this property?
Right. So maybe I word it in a different way, right? So we all know, right, BTO, EC, right? And then some of you are thinking about buying a brand new condo, right? Those that are still under construction. So why this kind of why they say this kind 包赚 sure make money, right? Actually think about it, right? Those people that buy their BTO, they buy and then they have to wait 3 years before it gets completed, right? And then they have to stay 5 years before they can sell. Same for EC, right? Actually also same thing for condo, right? Except condo, you don't have the minimum occupation period. So actually, have you thought about it this way? The capital appreciation really comes about because the people have to buy it early and wait for it to finish constructing. So that is basically it. That's basically where
compensating. They are being compensated for their time that they were willing to wait. Yeah, because there has to be a difference, right, between someone who buys and wait for 3 years before they get keys and someone who buys immediately and get keys immediately. The price is always different. So that difference in price is where the first timers always get that capital appreciation because they are being compensated for waiting.
So we really want all you first timers, right, to go and think about it, right? Do you really need the house now, right? Are you okay to wait a while, right? Wait a while, be a little bit uncomfortable, right? Maybe continue to stay with parents and whatnot, right? In exchange for that little bit of that capital appreciation that will help you in the future, right? So that is one question really to ask yourselves about it, right? Of course, it's very good, very nice, right? To once you get married, settle down, buy a house, go and enjoy about it, enjoy it, right? So we hope what we do today really can put things into perspective for you, right? You enjoy now, but 5 years later, if you see the negative sale, right? How do you deal with that, right? Not say will die or what, right? But how do you deal with it? Okay, that's the thing that we're trying to drive across, right? So the next thing, contingency plan, right? Dominic is like Dominic mentioned, right? Very important to plan for contingencies. But we like to use another word. We call it flexibility. So how do you build in flexibility into your property planning, right? So that is maybe. Do we have some examples? For them, how do we build up flexibility? Okay, maybe we share one way lah, right? So for private properties, right? For private properties, you can buy first with two names, right? 5 years down the road, if you need be, right? The times are not good, right? But you want to continue holding on to the property, you want to buy a second property, you can do this thing called decoupling, right? Decoupling actually offers this kind of flexibility. Times not good, right? Or you don't really need to sell the house now, but you're looking to buy a second one for investment, right? So there is flexibility.
Giving yourself options, and that is something EC can also do for you, but HDB cannot, whether it is BTO or resale. Yeah. I think also to think about in terms of flexibility, like, is it your contingency plan? If ever I need, is this house easy to sell? Will I be in a situation where I'm stuck? So back to what we said earlier, we try to avoid as much as we can for our clients to have a situation whereby they are stuck.
Yep. Okay, then the next thing is the most important thing, financials, right? But I think with all the info out in the internet, all the mortgage calculators out there, financials is something that is very easy for you to calculate. All right. But today we just slot this in thing called the negative sale, right? In all likelihood, right? If you were to buy a resale HDB, okay, you will have to be prepared to get a negative sale, unless of course you are paying for it in full cash lah, right? You are one of the 10% individuals that you can afford to pay for it in full cash, right? If not, right, think about it, which is why we ask the next question, right? So a lot of people, right, of course, if you're buying for investment, you're focused on capital appreciation, right? But those that are buying for own stay, right, your main focus is not really in capital appreciation. So we use this other word, right? Cash proceeds, right? Is cash proceeds really important for you? Okay, of course, if you are like, if you treat the house solely as a shelter, right, solely as a place to enjoy, to consume, right, consumption, and you have other means of making that kind of money, right, then you can say, no, I don't need cash proceeds. Cash proceeds is not important for me. Then okay, right? At least you check that off. At least you went through that mental thought process before arriving at that conclusion, right? So after running through all of that, right, a checklist like that, of course, it doesn't cover everything, right? Location, you notice, is not inside, because location, like what we said, is a very emotional kind of thing.
Yeah.
Right? But yeah, on that.
From here, it is like kind of like a mind map whereby you see which one is important, and then when you get to the end, what are your options, and based on your budget, then it becomes very clear what is suitable for you based on what you ticked off in terms of timeline, in terms of purpose, in terms of is cash proceeds important.
Yeah. So perhaps before we end off, right, this short sharing, oh yeah, we missed out on one point about the negative sale point, right? Yeah. So back, sorry, backtrack a bit. We missed out on one of the points, right? Pardon us, right? First time. Okay, so a lot of people, right, fall under the impression, right, that it's good to fully pay off the house early. All right. Parents, again, right? Old school way of thinking. Hurry up, fully pay off your house, then you don't need to go and worry so much. You don't need to pay the interest rates, right? But if we look at this table, right? If you use your CPF to fully pay off the house, right? It's going to exaggerate the effects of negative sale. What does it mean? It means even if you fully pay off your house using CPF 5 years into your ownership of the thing, right? There's a good chance 2-3 years down the road when you want to sell, it's already in negative sale. So this is something that, right? So not to say no good to pay off your house, right? But there is a difference between paying your house off with cash and paying off the house with CPF, right? The scariest thing sometimes we hear is that the client put money into CPF and then after that use CPF to pay off the property. The one, please try not to do that. Okay, yeah. So so that is another thing to right, another thing that we thought we could share with clients nowadays. Fully pay off house. Last time people like to wear it like a badge of honor, right? But now really got difference, right? So share that with your friends, right? Those that are not aware of it, or those that are still really fixated in the old way of thinking. Okay. Yeah, I think that's about it with what we have to share. So for this table, right, if you want to know how to really use it properly, right, or you want to know more about our guide, right, drop us a text, drop us a PM, right? We'll be happy to send it to you, run it through with you, because we can't cover everything at one go. We wanted to keep this session short so that short and sweet, right? And then we can take your questions on that. So now to Q&A, right? Maybe we see we can take some questions. 5 minutes. If 5 minutes got no question, then we'll see you guys 2 weeks from now. Yeah, we'll try to do it more often, but yeah, if we can do it more often, then we'll do it more often.
Yeah, if anyone has questions, you can drop them in the comments.
Anything else that we thought can add while we are waiting? Okay, so Yvonne asked, can share about bank loan versus CPF loan, especially during this climate when bank interest rate is low.
Okay, to Yvonne, when you are saying CPF loan, I assume you are referring to the HDB loan. Okay, so for bank loan versus HDB loan, yeah, people always struggle because HDB loan is more expensive. It's at 2.6% interest rate versus the bank loans. Now you can get it at about 1.5% interest rate. But the downside for a bank loan is that your down payment is small and you have to use cash, 25%, out of which 5% is cash, versus HDB loan where it's just 10% down payment and it can be it can be fully paid by CPF. So if you ask us, definitely if you can afford the down payment, go for the bank loan because you can save a lot on the interest. 2.6% versus 1.5%, that 1% gap, right, is really quite significant. It can be a few $100s each month. But one thing to note is that you can go from a HDB loan to a bank loan, but you cannot switch back. So if you choose bank loan, right, you have to be prepared to go with the bank loan for the rest of your property. You cannot switch back and go back for a HDB loan. Yeah, so I think that's what we have to share for that question Yvonne has.
Yeah, a lot of people, when they are balancing out, especially at the stage where you buy, are balancing between bank and HDB loan, really is the down payment thing. If you can afford it, do go for a bank loan, right? Okay, the next question, right, Dominic, what if I don't wish to have cash proceeds, but I don't wish to lose money from sale of flat? Wow, what if I don't wish to have cash proceeds, but I don't wish to lose money or buy full cash, buy full cash
No,
and
I
then
think what Dominic means is that having cash proceeds is not important, but you don't want to lose money from the sale of the flat, meaning you don't want to be in a negative sale.
correct. So which means, right? If assuming, right? So I think where you're coming from is like I don't need to make money. I just don't want to lose money, right? Unfortunately, okay, if you buy a property for your own consumption, right? Then assuming that the price remains the same, how CPF work is that CPF will continue its process. CPF do not care whether or not you buying it for your own consumption, whatnot. So to avoid, right, you don't want to lose money, right? Number one, I think you just have to. I assume that you are not going to use CPF because you said, right, I don't care, or you're going to use your CPF anyway. But you just have to make sure that you purchase a property that the price will remain consistent. Yeah.
I guess, but if you take a bank loan, then there's money lost in interest. So I think for Dominic, if you don't wish to lose money from the sale of the flat, then you have to find a flat that can at least increase in price at the same rate of the interest that you're paying. So if you're paying a 1.5% interest rate for the bank loan, then you have to buy a property that can at least increase in price every year 1.5%. So the interest you pay, you earn back in terms of capital appreciation. Then net is the same. You don't have cash proceeds, but you don't lose money. I think that would probably be the answer.
Your question, good question. Okay, Jackson, for condo investment, should we look at resale or buy new? Does buying resale condo depreciate? Okay, Jackson, we will have another session, right, to talk about this, right? Because this one is really it's going to take up a whole session on its own, right? But if you don't want to wait for the next session, right, you just drop us a PM, right? We can have a private session with you lah, okay, on this. Nordin, when is our next sharing? Schedule is 2 weeks from now, right? But if our schedule clears up, we'll try to do one next week. Charles, can we identify undervalued properties in this market? Yeah, right. Undervalue. Okay, so there's a difference between undervalue and fire sale, right? And undervalue to one person does not mean undervalue to another person, right? We will touch on this also in another session, how to identify undervalued properties. But perhaps, Charles, something to ask yourself is, what do you consider undervalued? Right? So different people, different, right?
I think Clement has a question. Paying mortgage with cash or CPF, since the accrued interest for CPF is so high. Yeah. So for those that do not know, the CPF accrued interest rate is 2.6%. What does this accrued interest mean? So it means that if it's 2.5%, sorry. It means that if your CPF is sitting in your CPF account and you do not use it, the government will be paying you 2.5 interest every year. Versus if you use it for your property, when you sell your property, this 2.5% interest is being compounded and you have to return into your CPF account the original amount that you use plus that 2.5 interest compounded that you otherwise would have earned if you didn't use your CPF for your property. So with that question, should we use cash or CPF to pay the mortgage? It's a very common question that we get. And for Clement, I think you will have to weigh your opportunity cost of your cash and your CPF. So there are different groups of clients. Some clients, right, we ask them, if you don't use your cash, what are you going to do with your cash? Then they say, oh, just put in the bank law, got the savings interest rate, or I put it in the bank for fixed D because I don't like to invest. I'm very risk averse. So if that is the case, then we will suggest you use your cash because the interest that you will earn in the bank is maybe less than 1% versus the CPF that you can be earning 2.5% interest rate. So of course, use your cash. But if you are a very savvy investor and you can find alternative forms of investments that can yield you more than 2.5% interest, maybe 3%, 4%, or 5%, then yes, use your CPF and keep your cash for your other investments. So this is something that each individual has to weigh on their own. There's no definite right or wrong answer lah. Yeah.
So on Rachel's question, is HDB rental flats while waiting for BTO advisable? Okay, I think what you meant is renting a HDB, because HDB rental flats are catered only for the low income lah. So if I get you correctly, is renting a HDB advisable while waiting for BTO? Honestly, if you ask me, it's your own personal preference, and it's also what kind of BTO are you waiting for, right? Because the rental is going to be an expense down the drain, right? 2 years, 2 to 3 years minimum, right? BTO sometimes take up to 4 years to build. So I will do a comparison, right? Wait for BTO while renting. At the end of the day, what is my cost? And then if I do go and buy a resale flat, end of the day, what is my cost, right? So that is weighing out what is your cost, number one. Number two, is to ask yourself that question that we keep asking. Do you really need your own place now?
At this point of time.
At this point in time.
Yeah.
Can you wait, right? It's whether or not you feel it's worthwhile to pay that money. For us, I think it's okay, right? You rent, you take a 6 months rent to enjoy. After that, you see already, you can choose to move back with your parents, that kind of thing, or you feel that the expense is too high, then you can shift back, right? It gives you flexibility, right? Renting, you don't have to sign a 2-3 years lease kind of thing, right? Okay, yeah, I think that's about it from us today, right? We have that question, so we'll be back on schedule 2 weeks from now. Right, but stay tuned, right? If we do have time, we're going to put up, we'll do another session next week, right? All right, so thank you guys so much. See you again soon.
Thanks for joining us.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.